Start streaming, give it a few seconds. Alright, everybody. Hey, guess what? It is currently Saturday, February 23rd, 2019. We're a little bit late because we were doing a little bit of research, and we're going to keep on doing the research in the background. And but until then, we have Ed here, and he's got a lot of information. So put your receptor caps on and receive this information, and hopefully it sticks in your brain. And if it doesn't, you can watch this again and again and again until YouTube basically says, nope, we're getting off this. We're blocking this channel. So Ed, why don't you take it away?
Well, we were having fun with you going off on the little excursion there for a moment. Anyhow, we want to thank you for joining us tonight again. And sorry for the last few months. I've been in and out medically, so if anybody knows, I've been in and out with complete lung and heart failure. So they had to shut down. They've had to redo my heart, a few other things. But, you know, it's one of those things that, hey, it's life. You got to enjoy it. You know, you can't change it. You just got to deal with it when it comes down to it. And that's exactly what I have done, or what I'm doing. So, but anyhow, the one thing is we'll be getting a picture up or something up. And if you go to our website, you'll see the front page or disclaimer on the front page. And actually, that whole long structure, if you do want a copy of it, the stamp is, I got to tell you, it is expensive. So if you're into something like that, we'll get a copy of the stamp, actually the way it's stamped, and we'll get that put up. And now, if anybody's interested in something like that, we could do that. So, but I just want to bring this up to you tonight because we want to get into, you know, this is the one thing I'm having an interesting time with some of the people. And going back and forth and explaining some intelligence to some of the people. Because it's like, if you know the Constitution, you have rights. If you're an immigrant, you have privileges. You do not have rights. All right? The 14th Amendment was never passed, never ratified, nor could it ever be ratified. Even today, the Senate and House cannot ratify anything because they're under a de jure government, or not a de jure government, but a corporation government. And a corporation government has no authority, and we'll be damned if we're going to the British government side of religion. And we ain't playing that religion stuff in this Constitution of the United States. And anybody who goes off, and I've had many conversations with people going, oh, Ed, you can't do that because religion is the foundation of this country. No, it is not. It came from England and Spain, and it raped and murdered the native men and women. So let's stop lying to the children. Let's start being honorable for once and stop lying to them. So anyhow, I want to get into this. This is the point that I want to lead into this. Because all judges, now remember, maritime judges, and I'm going to get into that here in a minute, but I want you to comprehend, all judges are lawfully required by 28 United States Commercial Code 372 to have an oath of office, and you have to ask the judge if he has an oath of office. And if he has the oath of office, you want to see if it's an oath to the maritime judiciary or the Constitution. That's the separate of an Article 1 administrative court compared to an Article 3 Article 3 lawful Constitution court. And the conversation we were having is dealing with proving the Republic point of the Constitution, and we'll get into that. And that was a major statement, too, that the Republic came from Benjamin Franklin when he came out of the meeting that afternoon. And people were asking what he gave us when they signed the Constitution was a republic, not a Republican, not a democracy or Democratic Party, no. Democrat and Republican parties are mind-altering, twist-brain deals to have you fight and argue so they can steal, rape, and rob you for your Constitution rights and bill you for it. So, and that is the one thing, too, that if a judge has an oath and is going by administrative rules, that's what I'm trying to get you folks and get people to comprehend. you have to file a criminal complaint on him representing admiralty jurisdiction. See, they can't do admiralty administration. This is by federal law, USC, United States Commercial Code 37228. All right, even though that Title 28, technically, some people argue with it, doesn't exist. We know how it goes. We know the circumstances of it, but it's like we got to come realistic. And then the other point that I want to bring up, USC, we know is formerly USC 1038 is formerly 1207. And that reserves your rights, and that is your right of, and I'm going to let you know, this is a court case. And this is actually what it says in Mulberry versus Matterson. The Great Spirit, Mother Earth, the creators, the rights to protocol, the rights, your rights, or the court case of Mulberry versus Madison. This is more explained. I've been doing some more research, and you start doing some research in some of these old court cases, from the 1800s and mid-1800s, and not one of them says, dealing with God. It says the Great Spirit, Mother Earth, the Creator. So that's the point, that we've got to get back to the structure of our treaties and the Constitution. All right, you're entitled to your religious beliefs. The Constitution guarantees you your religious belief, but it does not give you the right to go out and tell somebody how to live or believe. That's the same thing like a woman. If she wants to have an abortion, hey, that's her right. It's her body. Not your body, her body. So if you pick the wrong woman to mate with, shit happens. Okay? But that's just the way it is. And also, too, that follows under 12 USC 411, and that is dealing with financial and debtors, because the birth certificate bond is a debt instrument when they have you fill that out and file it on your child. So that way you're creating, and you've got to remember, this is one thing that people do not comprehend. When you put your kid in for a Social Security number, legally you cannot do that. That is actually committing paper fraud, treason to the country. And I do have a piece that I've written up. I will finish up on that part so people could actually read the structure, the administrative rules. I'm combining them like I do with everything else, so that way when you read how the administrative rules and all of it comes together, it makes sense. It's like what I've done with the clerks, paperwork dealing with the clerk, because the notice of clerk. The minute you file a paperwork, I don't give a darn if he stamps it or he stamps it or not. Once you file it, and if it's received, you always want to get it stamped. I don't care if it doesn't say, recorded file. It just says received. Once any document is received, okay, that's the same thing as certified when it comes to your public employees. Secretary of State. I got a lot of paperwork that I've got certified by the Secretary of State. I've got others that they just accept filing. Because a lot of stuff, when Kate Brown was running the Secretary of State, Kate Brown didn't want me to file my paperwork. And then when I came to file some other paperwork in the state on the racketeering, fraud, and extortion, all the public employees came out after me with claws about 4 years ago. Because I was filing on the House and Senate for fraud, extortion, and rape, rob, and murder. Basically, it comes out to human trafficking on the bill that I just put out, dealing with human trafficking and what they've done to me, myself, and I. So that way, my case, you can prove it. They tried to take me out. I've got videotapes where they tried to take me out in jail. And they've been on talk shows. The former district attorney on Robin Vett has been on talk shows and stuff. But see, the reason, and then you people whine, these people get away with this stuff. Bullshit. They don't get away with shit. They only get away with it because you want them to rape your children. You want them to steal your land. That's the way they get away with it, because you want it. So, unless you don't want it, you have to file your paperwork, and that's the other point I keep been getting it. Some people are getting it more and more now. But like I said to people, you've got to file that paperwork. And if you don't file that paperwork that says that you are a lawful bloodline native and not a corporation member, you're missing the whole point here. You are totally missing the whole point here. Because when you go into a public agency, they got to know who's lawful and who's legal in the country. And whose responsibility is to prove it? You, yourself, and yourself. Because you got to prove that you're lawful or legal to be in this country. And people say, well, I have a right and I have a birthright. You have no birthright. There's no birthright. See, that's the one thing. And I'm so glad that Trump came out, and I've been pushing that out for years, telling everybody about, there ain't no birthright. I've been doing that for, God, anybody known me for more than 20, 30 years knows that. He bitched about immigration and been after them and had a lot of conversations with them. And so it is interesting, it's very interesting what goes on. But we have the tools, we have the equipment that we can do right now today to solve these issues. So by properly educating ourselves so we know what the Constitution is, what the circumstances are really about, not hearsay evidence. There's too many people doing hearsay bullshit. And you got to remember, hearsay doesn't mean nothing. Hearsay is hearsay. Hearsay has to be a proven fact. It cannot be just something that somebody wants to just say and have everybody follow. That's why when you put an affidavit and you file criminal charges on your public servants, that's why they have to react to them. See, that is the one point that people are not getting to the point. They have to react to those things. They have to apply to those things. It's like I filed many things on public servants. Many, many things. And everybody says, well, you haven't won the case. Well, no, I haven't won the case per se. But yes, I have. Because you're watching administrative rules and regulations being changed. So you're missing the point. You're watching things being changed. You're watching administration being changed right now. And so by you watching the administration being changed, you're winning. And I'm going to get into that one here because a lot of people are not paying attention to what's going on in the circumstances around them. They really are not. And this is a frustration that we have when people are losing their rights. And people go, well, you have no rights in court. Well, you have to know your rights. And then people go, well, I'm waiting for my day in court. And then when I get to court, the judge doesn't want to listen to me. He doesn't have to listen to you, you idiot. Did you file your claim before you went to court? Did you file that you were lawful or legal? Did you file what your standards were? Did you file what you were supposed to do? See, that is the one thing that you are supposed to do this. So people say, well, no, that's the system's job. The system's job is to protect we, the people. It's that simple. So if you want them to protect we, the people, then we, the people, have to protect the public servants and getting that out to them. Teaching them what the truth is. Teaching them that they have a right to these things. See, that is the one thing that people have got to comprehend. I mean, we got these battles right now on the border lines. We got the Mexicans invading this country. And people just sitting there in front of their TV going, no big deal. We got plenty of room on this soil. We can have all these people, but you're not intelligent. How do you expect them to feed themselves? Where do you expect them to live? Oh, they have to steal your assets, your homes from you, put you on the street, tell you if you didn't pay your income or property tax, we're going to shoot you off your land. Are you people that intelligent or are you that stupid that you allow this? Oh, people say, oh, we just have to pay taxes because that's what the devil says we're supposed to do. And so that is the point, So that is the point. What are you going to do? What are you going to do for your kids? So you lie to your children all the time. See, that's the one thing. Majority of the people lie to their children all the time. So that is the one thing that once people stop lying to their children, we can make this country a great, great, great country. It already is a great country because we have things because you don't comprehend what freedom is. You don't comprehend what your right is. And so I'm being corrected on it's called the Republican form of government. Now, I watched that stuff for too damn long, and I've got to find it because I know there's a deal on it, and I'll get back to...
Ed,
Go ahead.
I sent you a picture of the original document that has been scanned, the actual Constitution, and I've underlined the area that says Republican.
Okay, I see what you got, and I'm getting feedback, but we already have that too. We have that on our wall, but okay. But see, this is the one thing that we're going to go through that. Let me go over here, because then you go over here, and then you got what Benjamin Franklin says, republic form of government is what Benjamin Franklin says. So anyhow, we'll go with the Republican form of government, the way it's said in the preamble that is there. So we'll get that posted up. We'll probably get that posted up if we can get that posted up on the live broadcast. That way people can see the commentary on that one. And we'll get that out because we do have the original constitutional document copy of it. And so we'll get that passed out to people too. We want to make sure that people get it. And then I want also to get into like a police officer, a district attorney, a judge, anybody who's affiliated with a corporation. Corporation members, corporations cannot make an affidavit in its corporate name. That includes that if you are using your surname, your given name, you technically cannot make an affidavit unless you're making it as the injured party or the witness to of, and you have to write it as a living man or woman. See, that is the one thing that people are not comprehending, the way the law or the statute and administrative rules read. They're not getting it that you have to prove your case. That's why they throw them out. You didn't prove that you were the injured party. That's why they're throwing them out. So I've been watching this stuff for the last 20, 30 years, watching it, how they get away with it, watching the figures, how they come up with this stuff. And then the other point, too, that is I try to explain to people who are dealing with DHS is the main thing is you want to get an affidavit from your caseworker that you got your case released to you. You got all your papers. That's the footnotes. You want to make sure you got notes passed between workers. See, all that is so very important. Thank you. We got it up. But see, so all that is so very important that you bring out your case, you bring out your standing, you have to prove who you are. That is the point, that if you don't prove your standing and prove that you're lawful or legal, that's how they classify you and put you in these things, in these categories. And don't forget, when a public employee does not register with, what do they call that? The Foreign Agent Registration Act. And if you look at USC 552, you could go to the Federal Freedom Information Act and ask them on that to see if they're registered. If they're not, they can go to prison. See, we have solutions. Now we're starting to get public employees that are standing up to these things. So seeing that we got public employees that are standing up on these things, All right, now we got public employees that are honoring their oath of office more and more. They're slowly coming up, and we see it. You see it, folks. Trust me, I know you see it. You got to see what's going on. So when it goes through these points and these passes, so I mean, you got to look at these things. I mean, it's like, so it is so interesting because when you think about the RICO cases that are going on, you figure out how they're taking advantage of us, screwing us, for personal financial gain. Well, if you don't file on those personal financial gains, they have a legal right to do it because you gave them legal rights. You don't get it. You gave them legal rights. So, and realize legal is religion, British government, not American. The Constitution is American. So, and that's where people need to really reality come to the point of what it is of the proof. It's like, we're getting letters out there that we've got up on new.org and trackers. I got a few more we're going to be getting up there. And it's your responsibility to look at these things, to put these things together, and to protect your children, because it's your responsibility to protect your children. Nobody's going to else do it. And that's the one thing, like, we get on this kick, dealing with the civil flag or the peace flag. See, the point is to get that out so you get to know the difference. So everybody flies the war flag. And then they wonder why there's problems they have. And then we got the issues that go on. We got the things to solve these things. So how come we're not solving them? How come we're not working together more and more? It's like I was on the internet with some other people earlier, passing things, going back and forth of how to handle some things. And so many people, I get it, are scared. But what are you scared of, you or them? See, that is the one thing that you have to know, who you are scared of, them or you. And once you put those pieces together, then you can start doing something and accomplish what your goals are. But we all have goals, and that is the one thing that when you're writing these court cases up, they wrote it, we use it. They wrote it, we quote it. It's like right now, the Oregon State administrative rules are trying to make it so 16-year-olds can vote. Their goal is to go to 14-year-old. This was a conversation back in 1990 to have it set up so 14-year-olds could vote. So now they're pushing for 16-year-olds to vote. Now they can't even legally enter into a contract. So now they're putting a child that's not educated, not intelligent to know anything in life, in a position so they can vote. And then they're using the craziness with this Parkland, Florida shooting case. Oh, come on, grow up, people. These kids, they don't have a right to vote. They have to do what their parents tell them. If they don't like it, too bad. It's time for them to grow up and face the reality. When they're 18, then they can leave home and go do what they want. But until then, we all had to do stuff with our parents. And everybody says, well, the state should be able to do this or that and protect us. The state is not there to protect you. The state is there to do a function to file our paperwork. We, the people, are supposed to be protecting ourselves. And we're not doing that. We're not even protecting the children today. I mean, that's the one thing you've got to admit, to look at them and everybody goes, oh, well, we got to go protect the children because of, what do they call that? Abortions. Well, that's a woman's body, and if you pick the wrong woman, it's your fault. But you can't sit there and go after all this stuff and state that we're protecting one another, we're protecting the children, when we sure to hell ain't protecting the children. Now, there is another state that California and one other state has initiative, Oregon, that's right, Oregon, putting together a bill so that way teachers can be armed. I don't have a problem with that one because I will tell you, in Sweden law says that everybody has to have 1,000 rounds of ammunition on them at all times. And the other point about Sweden law says that, you come in our country, you do what you do against our deals, we shoot you. And that's what they do. That is what they actually do. And so that's the point. Sweden's never been raided. It's the only country that's never been raided in the world because everybody's armed. And they're told that they have to be armed. Oh, that's right. They grew up with intelligence. And they have the lowest accidental shooting rate than anybody else in the entire world because they're brought up around arms. They are trained in arms. And when you're 16 years old, I think it's 16 in Sweden, you have to do 2 years in the military. So that's not the issue. The issue is that it's great that they're doing this. See, it's not an issue. It's a fact of life. See, if you start doing that in a fact of life and start doing that in life, nobody gets a problem. See, we have solutions to all of our problems. And there are solutions to these problems. But I want to get into it. So I want to get into that. You guys realize the courts are not run by the judges. The judges don't own the courts. So I'm going to read you that in a minute. We are getting that, put out. Another one of the guys going, well, I'm going to refuse taxes until abortions are stopped. And I have fun with people who act like uneducated people because when you do that, you're saying you're not educated. You're saying you're stupid because anybody who has any intelligence, why are you paying taxes in the first place? Taxes are 100% voluntary. That's the one thing. It's a voluntary structure. So when are you going to act responsible? When are you going to teach your children they don't need a driver's license? When are you going to teach your children they don't need a marriage certificate, a place to privilege to have a relationship? You don't get permission from the state, you're not entitled. And that's what you're asking for is permission. You're not a free man and woman. You're asking permission. You're pleading. And that is the saddest part when people have to plead. So that is the point, that people are pleading and not listening. So when it comes to that point, it is so sad that people don't get the facts of reality of the world. And so that is the one thing that is so sad, that we don't get the reality. How many people sit there and defend their neighbors, defend their families, defend people when they see this crazy crap that happens to them? Very few people defend themselves. So when it really comes down to it, that's the saddest part. Very few people are defending themselves. Very few people are doing anything about anything out there. So that is a sad part. Who's protecting who? Nobody's protecting anybody when it comes down to it. Everybody says, oh, we're protecting the children. I've been watching all these court cases where these children who have been assaulted, who raped and been through all this stuff, who've done all this crazy stuff. And the problem with that, I appreciate the correction. That's what it's all about. That's what we're supposed to be working to. You said Switzerland, so I'm totally wrong. And so I don't know why I've been saying Sweden all this time, but it's just I've been saying it. So Switzerland. So I knew it was one of the countries. But see, this is the point that when people protect one another, this is how we sit there and save each other. See, they're protecting their country. They're saying they're not going to be invaded. They're not going to go through this in their country. And then when we sit there and we say we're going to protect our children, we don't protect the children. Who protects the children? So I would like to see who protects the children. See, I haven't seen anybody who protects the children. See, when somebody protects the children, I'll be more than happy to jump in joy for all that one to see that truth. But I haven't seen it. How many of you seen it? See, that is the one thing that most people don't see it. They don't know what's going on. They don't get it. So by what the craziness is going on with our country and all this stuff, because we are being invaded by foreigners. And you got the Democrats who are doing this because they're making money off the birth certificate bond. They're making money off it. That's what they care about. They don't care about your children because they need children raped, robbed, and pillaged because it's called job security. And that's the one thing that and people go, oh, no, they wouldn't do it for that. Yes, they do it for that. There's job security. Right now, the Oregon House and Senate is planning on how to rape your children, to rob you right now, today, as we speak. Because that's what human trafficking is all about. What your elected and public employees are doing to you is human trafficking. So when they're taking you into jail for not paying a fine, even though the Supreme Court says they can't. Okay, and everybody keeps going like myself. Well, who's going to defend us? You know, they do this. We have no say. We do have the say if people start standing together, and it does make changes. We've seen that in other circumstances around us. But until we start doing it, you know, a major stand up, I mean, we could go back to the structure of what happened in Nazi Germany, which technically we're living the same way in a lot of regards as they did back in Nazi Germany. I mean, somebody farts in the wrong classroom, a kid goes to jail for offensive odor for farting in a classroom. Same thing they did in Nazi Germany. Then they would take that kid and put him in the military. Shipped them right to the military. But we're not doing that to the kids here, but it's close enough. I mean, we have no protection. There's no protection in this country when you got public employees who are not honoring their oath. Now, we do have some that are honoring their oath, and now we need to start backing these men and women up. There's a lot of them going to the borders right now in New Mexico and California dealing with evasion. I mean, this evasion is real, folks. This is not just imaginary. I mean, you know, they're coming in to take your homes, your food. You know, and then you got to look at where your own children, your grandchildren, how are they going to survive? Do you really care about your children? Or is this just another misleading date for you to just go on what you're doing? So, I mean, it's coming to the reality of how do we stand up. And that's the best part that we're able to do. There's no education. We read what other people put out. We read what other people are doing. We like to publicize stuff out to make sure that everybody else can have the same educational standards. Because you have to read their administrative rules. You know, and you have to read that structure. And if you don't read it, how do you expect anybody else to come forth? That's where it really comes down to. How do you expect anybody else to come forward on those things? So, and that's why I want to bring it up, like the clerk, you know, the judges. We bring you these administrative rules up. You know, it's like when you go to court, you got to ask the judge, who's he addressing? Your corporation man or your lawful name? And you have to have it on record. They don't want to put it on record, so you want to do that. But that's why I always suggest to people, before you go to court, you file your criminal charges. Because, they're going to drop your cases. Okay, so you drop your case. Everybody walks away. See, there are simple ways of doing our system to protect ourselves. There are simple ways. But it depends on how you want to be able to maneuver those waves to protect your bloodline. So, I mean, we have the solutions. And so, anyhow, pretty much what I want to get into tonight. I've been lacking on the other structure on Sunday nights on the amendments. I want to get back to that. I've been having conversation with others on the constitutional amendments. This is where most people are not getting what the Constitution really stands for, what it means, how it's there to protect you. That's why they keep saying that we want to change it. We don't want anything in the Constitution changed. Because the minute you start changing that Constitution, you have no Constitution. And that's where the Democrats lie to you. Oh, we can vote it by changing it. No, you cannot vote to change the Constitution. It's either there or it's not. You can vote on administrative rules is the only thing you can vote on. Is administrative rules. See, and it's knowing what the lawful and legal difference is. So until you know what it is, until you stand up and define what it is, until you get what's going on with the circumstances of it, you have no say. And you have no say today because everybody goes, oh, I need to go get a driver's license. Well, where does it say you need a driver's license? There is no law that says you need a driver's license. Absolutely no law. Where's the law that says you need to pay income tax, property tax? There is no law. I've done the investigation on it, done it, looked at it, been through it all. So there is no law on these things, what they're claiming to you. The only thing is called the Constitution, and so the Constitution gives you rights. And if people want to go by religious structure of an Article I court, then please move to England. We don't want you here. You know, this country is not open to the world. We are not open to the world. And as soon as more and more people comprehend that this United States, of we the people, is not for the world. Because, yeah, the world uses us for an example on a lot of things. The world wouldn't exist unless we made it happen. And I'm talking people from generations before we got here. See, that's the whole point. The whole point is learning your history. And then, like the senators, you know, they're trying to raise your income tax and everything in this state by 400%, I mean. So you got to realize they're talking about if they get this carbon tax, that means your food prices are going up 35% minimum. Because remember, everybody got to raise that nickel fee. So you figure that there's 10 or 15 people before you get that product delivered to you because you got the gas, transportation costs, you got the administrative rules of the corporation costs, you got the driver's cost, you got the handler's cost. I mean, everybody's got to tie up into that carbon tax. Everybody gets a percentage. It's not, you just think it's 5 cents on a dollar on your structure. No. By the time you're done, it's going to be like 33% or 30%. So, and that depends on each individual structure you're paying for. Each individual item. You know, milk, meat. You know, even though meat and poultry is one of the most subsidized products we got beside grains, which is sad because we don't get the subsidy of the grains in our country. They give that subsidy to others in their country. So that's what always amazed me, how people don't even pay attention to their own administrative rules. They don't pay attention to their own laws. They don't get it. So, anyhow, let's go ahead and open up the floor, see if anybody's got anything they would like to add or bring to the floor tonight, and see where we're going to go.
All participants are unmuted.
Ed.
Yes.
I think what a lot of people need to also know is, like what you pointed out to me, don't request in an affidavit demand in an affidavit or even in a letter. Don't just say, I would like you told me. No, don't request. I want this changed. That's it. To make a statement. I think a lot of people, part of the reason that they're somewhat nervous about it is because they're not probably exactly sure how to write it. Because we have been trained to request or ask for something, and we're still
Plead.
we haven't pulled our heads out of our butts and finally got it through our heads. We are no longer a slave. We are actually the owners. And it's like when you tell a dog something, you don't tell it and say, "Oh, would you please sit?" You tell the dog sit, and then it's supposed to do what you say. Well, these people, they're going to argue with you, and try to lie to you, but then you need to stand your ground and know what you're talking about. That's the first thing. Second thing is, don't request, don't ask, don't plead, none of that. Demand. Hey, no, I want this. I need to see this. You need to show me this now. I mean, as you pointed out, we are the leaders. We are the fourth line of the government. We need to demand from these people. They are the ones, like you pointed out many times, they are the ones who are supposed to be filing under the FAR Act of 1938. They are the outsiders. We are the insiders. They are coming into our country. They're giving up their American citizenship to serve us. And I think people really need to take that to heart and really start applying this into their everyday life. I mean, I know it sounds like well, how do I do that? Well, start demanding. You don't ask your kids to sit down. You tell them, sit, be quiet, say this, say that. This is how you're supposed to act. We demand our children to behave. We demand our animals to behave. We need to demand our employees to do what we ask, or what we tell them, not ask, what we tell them to do. And so part of doing that is definitely writing our instruments, the affidavits, just like what I've been doing. I've been rereading, and going over it again, because I'm one to make sure that everything that I'm doing on it is not asking, it's telling them. And I think everybody needs to be looking more into that and really comprehend that this is the type of stand you're going to have to take with these employees of ours, because that's what they're exactly here to do, is to serve us. But then we've been asleep at the wheel for so long that we have now become slaves to them. And we didn't. And before my dad passed away in 2017, I asked him, I said, "Why didn't you tell me this?" He says, "Well, son, nobody told me. I didn't know." And so a lot of this information that a lot of these people are getting, nobody knew about it before then, but it's been there. And as other people have said on other shows and everything, the truth is right there. They tell you. It's just that that's what it was. It was that YouTube video you sent me. The guy literally tells you the information is right there. They're telling you. The only problem is America has gotten too lazy to pick up something, and it's called reading. Left to right, up and down. That's what we need to start doing. Is start going back and rereading this stuff. And I don't mean off the internet, because they can change stuff and make it any way they want it, just like they have done with that word fascism. They've changed the meaning of it to fit whatever they want. You have to go back and get the old books that actually literally have the original meaning to get fully comprehend what is being told to you.
Yep.
Anyway, that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that.
May I?
Yes.
Okay, from my perspective, our Constitution starts out with "we the people." We the people are the first branch of government, not the fourth. That's for the small c citizens. And then the other issue is, I've been very successful a time or two with an attorney general's affidavit being incomplete, and other affidavits. Affidavits are only supposed to be the facts. You don't put in an affidavit everything, because that's not an affidavit, and I'll tear them apart with all kinds of Constitution law and everything else. You could make other statements and then incorporate it and say that on such and such date, I did request or demand something, and then you can put it in your affidavit. But it is not the first thing you put in an affidavit. Affidavits are only to be facts. Look it up. Research. Read a little bit. Read the definition of affidavits. See what they used as an affidavit. Facts only. It doesn't cover everything that's out there.
Well, not only that, a good point is to read other affidavits that are online.
Well, that doesn't mean that if you read it online that it's still nothing but facts.
No, that's true. You have to verify things. We always make sure we got to verify things, but it gives you another perspective, more ideas, or another way of looking at things.
Well, what's the definition of an affidavit? It's facts.
Yeah, and you're liable.
So when you tell someone, I demand this or I demand that in the affidavit, that's not proper. That's not a fact until you've done it with another instrument or another statement and that you can prove and back up. Then you put it in your affidavit, because now it becomes a fact.
Right.
Facts are only affidavits are supposed to be just the facts.
That's true. That is a major part, and people don't get that what an affidavit stands for compared to what they're taught to believe in a courtroom. And men and women can only write an affidavit of truth or fact. Like I said earlier, a police officer, a district attorney, a judge, none of them can write an affidavit. They can't write an affidavit even on your behalf. Because unless they're putting it as a lawful bloodline. Go ahead.
Hey, they do it every day. That's how they make $1 trillion a day with the court system.
Yep.
They do their affidavits every day in court. But you know how they do their affidavits? The court system brings Mr. Presenter Officer that wrote you the citation or whatever it is while you're in court and puts him on the witness stand or her on the witness stand. That becomes the affidavit on the witness stand. They're asked to swear in most cases,
right?
And then they rebut your arguments on the witness stand. That is their affidavit, and it saves them millions of dollars because they don't have to do the paperwork. They got their expert cop witness or detective, whoever it is, right there. And many times in either a bench trial or under the jury.
Right.
And so that's better than an affidavit because they got a witness. They got someone that's claiming the cop is claiming to be a first-hand knowledge witness. He's seen it. He wrote it. He give it to you. That's their affidavit. That's their oath. An oath supersedes an affidavit. Wake up, you guys. That's all.
That's a valid point. And I wonder how many people really picked up on that one and really got that one. Because that is a valid point. And they are creating a witness system on it.
Remember, they're swearing in under oath in front of a bunch of people many times, the jury. An oath supersedes the affidavit.
That's right.
Okay, I rest my case. That's it.
No problem. We appreciate that, and hopefully everybody else that picked up on that when you were talking about it. Because this is how they get around the system, and everybody keeps going, well, it's corrupt, it's corrupt. Well, we know it's corrupt. We know a lot of it's corrupt. But you just heard a perfect example how they're walking around it. And they are literally walking around this stuff.
Well, look how simple they're winning and making all them millions and trillions. They claim they're making $1 trillion a day. How do you think they're doing it? Just
That's
look.
right.
All you got to do is, why waste your time writing millions of affidavits when you can bring Mr. Officer in that wrote the citation and a couple of other witnesses, maybe whoever saw whatever.
Right.
They'd have to anyway. So why not just do it once? Under oath, which supersedes the affidavit, and then win the case and say, oh, well, that'll be 200,000 or 100,000 or 10,000, 500, whatever it is. You lose.
That's what I'm saying. It's a perfect way how they walk you right through their system and control the whole thing. And then people wonder why, what happened to them, what just happened. So it is interesting. So it is sad. It is sad what's going on. It really is sad. And that's the point. When are we going to start changing this stuff? See, it's up to us. We could change it. It's like public meetings. Be at these public meetings, but we need to get more and more people there. We need to put in the right people in office if you want to do it. Well, I don't vote myself because then that way I'm not part of their corporation system. Because remember, go ahead.
That's why you want we, the people, the first branch of government, to form the Constitution, not the fourth branch of government, which is the corporate citizens.
Right. And that's the one thing that people don't get that part either. And that follows under, what is that called? The 14th Amendment.
Yeah.
And then that's the one thing I'm just amazes me how people don't get the 14th Amendment. They think all these amendments are what the law is when it's a statute, code, and administrative rules that technically has no authority. And that's the point. It only has authority to elected and public employees, and corporation citizens. Go ahead.
But the small C citizen is paying the bill every day. They get stuck. Under the 14th Amendment, it applies to the small C citizen as far as the system is concerned. Pay the fine. Hire their attorneys.
Well, and that's what most people say. I just hired an attorney to deal with it. And it's like, then you have no rights. You just gave over. And then when you go to jail, then you're bitching at everybody else because you went to jail when you should have never went to jail for, a misdemeanor traffic offense or whatever.
What rights do you have under the small C citizen 14th Amendment? You don't have any.
That's right.
So you're hiring an attorney. You're making the whole system happy.
Right.
You're allowing them to process your case under the 14th Amendment.
Not only that, attorneys are supposed to be under maritime admiralty courts. That's what they say attorney can only represent. So that's the other point. Go ahead.
Yeah. Again, though, you don't have any rights under the 14th Amendment. If whatever rights you got, I want to know what they are.
No, I'm definitely on the same page on you on that. That is one thing that we need to get that one put out.
But anyway, in the Constitution, it starts out, we the people. First branch of government right there.
So, and that's true. And that's what we need to correct too.
That's right. We don't need the fourth branch of government that is not in the original constitutions.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't say anything about a fourth branch of government.
Nope.
But the 14th Amendment citizen is a fourth branch of government, flat out. All these people that contract in as a small c citizen.
Yep.
Okay, I got to quit. I said that's all several times, so that's all.
No problem. That's the whole point. But sometimes we have to say it enough to get it through people's head, and some people don't get it, what goes on. And so it is one of those things that does take time for people to get through their head. It's like with the cops today. It's like I've been, my thing is I was going into law enforcement. I've been a rent-a-cop, and that's what a cop is, rent-a-cop. And so you got to realize, I've been special police myself. It's called rent-a-cop. It's called rent-the-thug, to tell you the truth. It's called a legal enforcer, to enforce that your administrative rules are enforced. And then we go that we're supposed to have, respect to some of these people that are destroying the families and destroying their homes and, kidnapping and stealing people's homes for even property tax and stuff. If you don't pay your property tax, you lose your house and you get shut off your land. And then people will say, well, that's just part of life. No, it's not part of life. That's part of a dictatorship. That's part of what you call your devil. That's called the Nazi Germany. That's called whatever, taking away your rights. Still the Christian Crusades hasn't changed in decades. Hundreds of years, the Christian Crusade hasn't changed. I mean, I watch people all the time, no offense to religious people, but I'm a Christian, but then they support that if you don't have a license, they support you going to jail. They support if you offend somebody, maybe you should be shot. And that's what they support. They don't support your Constitution. They don't support rights. They don't care about your rights. So that's the one thing that people have got to step out of this movie, come to real production, real life of what it means. See, once all this stuff comes out and we get what it means, that's how we're winning. And things are being changed. Everybody's been watching, everybody's been watching what's going on. The House and Senate have been coming up with new voting structure, new things. And you think that these men and women are not listening to some of the things that people are saying? They are. But remember, some of these people they think about their own pocketbook. And once you comprehend that these men and women think about their own pocketbook first, they don't get, they don't get it. It's already reality. So until you start getting that reality, what's going on? I mean, it's like, we're being threatened with, having our arms taken. We're being threatened on having your children taken. And that's what gets to me. I mean, I've been watching this shit for children being taken since the 1970s myself. Have things changed? No. Do I watch all these nonprofits become financially stable? Oh, yes. Do they help the children? No, not really, because if they did that, they couldn't have a job tomorrow. And that's what you have to realize, that these men and women wouldn't have a job tomorrow. Go ahead.
May I? Yes. On the nonprofits, I heard on the radio last week that the Humane Society, all the monies that they get, 1% of it goes to the animals. 99% of that money goes to the personnel, the people at the top, so they can have make their millions of dollars off of. Oh, please donate for the kitty cats and the dogs and the horses and everything else. What a joke.
And do you see any of those board members out there shoveling the shit? No.
Well, if you were making millions of dollars, why wouldn't you be doing more advertising and traveling around the world, getting your jet, have a little fun? After all, they get millions of dollars. 1% to the animals, 99% to the people at the top.
Right. And that's the saddest part, that we are physically living today, what's going on. And it's disgusting what's going on. See, I mean, I just cannot believe people tolerate this, what goes on. That's what just amazes me, how people tolerate this stuff. So, to me, it's just stunning. You know, it's like this other kid that, you know, gets basically a citation for selling hot cocoa on a frozen day. Kids are going to jail, you know, for farting in classrooms. I mean, you know, it's like, people, you got to wake up. This is Nazi Germany you're living in. It is. Because why? Go ahead.
That's why I said we're already a socialist country.
Oh, yeah.
Do you feel free? Can you go out and travel without your licenses? Or do you got to join the socialist club and get your insurance, your license, and, you know, you can't be a traveler? To me, that's a prime example right there of your socialism.
That's right. And people got to admit to that. That's what we're dealing with. Oh, and then people say, well, Bernie Sanders ain't so bad. Oh, you know, you guys don't even know the extent of how serious that it could be. You don't realize, even with capitalism, how they're beheading you for their own money at their expense, and are taking your children on the way. That's the point. People wondering why we got all this human trafficking and these sex slaves. Well, they make a living off it. Remember, it's a living. You know, it's sad, because they got so many stuff out there. You know, with new medications to help people out and stuff. And, you know, I'm fortunate that I've been through it, and I'm, you know, sad that others don't get that opportunity. I mean, because I've had, you know, 8 complete lung and heart shutdowns. So I've been there. You know, I've been there. So it is frustrating, you know, on that point. And then you watch other people that can't get stuff, and it's like, and we allow this stuff to happen. Look at what vaccinations are doing. I mean, it's like, you know, look at California with how do you sit down and burn an entire city block out with the trees all around it still standing? I mean, there's a lot of stuff that is going on that people don't realize what the cost is. I mean, right now we're fighting on the California, New Mexico borders right now, literally having shootouts. Go ahead.
And that's plumb stupid and crazy. And so that's just socialism again. If we were obeying our Constitution, I guarantee you this would be over.
Oh, yeah.
Them people, it would be America for Americans first, instead of the New World Order first and Americans last.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of like this license to drive versus, you know, you want a socialist license to drive, or do you want to be a free man or a free woman to travel? 99.9% say, oh, I'd rather be a socialist and have a socialist license to drive. I don't want to be a free woman. I don't want to be a free man. They like their slavery. They love socialism.
Yeah, that's the saddest part about it. You know, people ain't free, and people think they're free. They have no idea what freedom is. You know, it's like I was discussing that earlier. You know, I mean, I grew up in California. I grew up in Portland and Oregon, all around Oregon and California. All my life bounced around from that state to this state. And then when you watch what goes on, it's just totally amazing. It just amazes me on half the shit that goes on, and that's tolerated and allowed. You know, everybody wants to fight over religious points of view, but they don't want to fight for the Constitution. But remember, the Constitution gave you the rights. Even to your... Go ahead.
It should be we the people for the Constitution for we the people.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's so sad today that the children are taught today that if they speak up or speak out, they're the problems. See, that is the saddest part. You know, we're taught that the kids are the problems. Kids are taught that they are the problems, not the solution.
Well, it should be we the people for the Americans.
Mm-hmm.
And the Americans for we the people.
That's right. I mean, it's like in Venezuela. Does anybody realize what's going on in Venezuela? They're basically, they have nothing. Some of those people are trying to figure out how to eat.
We need to take care of our own first before we.
Well, no, I agree with you there.
Up the world. Let's take care of our own backyard. We can't take care of everybody else's backyards.
Oh no! I'm looking at Venezuela, what they're going through, what their circumstances are right now today.
Well,
because they're going through socialism where they've lost everything.
Ah, that's right.
Right, so they've already been through the socialism product and lost, and then people want to live this stuff, and it's like, don't you realize what's going on around you, what's happened in other countries? So that is the one thing that people are not paying attention. You know, people don't get it. You know, I mean, Venezuela has no medical right now, no food in the stores. You have to get a tag number to even get food. They write a number on your arm in the lines to get food. There is no freedom or anything in Venezuela right now, and that's what socialism did to that country.
I remember when a friend of mine was in business over in Venezuela for a little while, and he said it was terrible. This was a few years ago, and he said when he'd walk into the grocery store to buy some stuff, they would be marking the stuff up while he was trying to buy it. He said a loaf of bread might triple in price while he was in the store. That's your socialism.
That's your free market, because it goes by a free market, and socialism says, well, we got to justify to pay the medical bills today. We got to raise everything up $1. Tomorrow we don't have to, but today we do. So that's why I just don't get it, you know, and it is happening. So it is happening. So it is, you know, you're watching all these kids being threatened and all this stuff going on with DHS and these states, and, you know, it's like all these people going, well, they took my kid. Well, how come you're not reading? How come you're not learning? How come you're not protecting your children? See, that's what gets to me. So that's just disturbing. You know, so, you know, and it's sad because people were basically saying they want to be raped, robbed, and pillaged. They need something to whine to the world that I'm the victim, I'm the injured party, so I can't be happy and satisfied. I got to be whining and claiming that my injuries. And don't forget your feelers, your emotional feelers, if they were hurt. I remember listening to that once in a relationship where my feelers got hurt. And it's like, Jesus Christ, what do you mean, feelers? Either you feel or you don't. Do you have life or do you don't? So these are things that we got to look at, take into consideration. So anybody else would like to add anything else to the conversation? Well, so nobody else has got nothing they want to add to the conversation? So, all right, then we got, don't forget, New Hampshire Legislative Dick Marble is bringing out some other stuff on the rights of travel. I'm going to be posting this up on the websites, new.org trackers, United States for Elected and Public Servants Oversights. Will be posted on Recall Cape Brown, as well as the Civil War, Lawful Bloodline Americans, 1866. So when you look at this stuff, I'm posting this around because we've got senators and congressmen who out there have been admitting this stuff. Right now, in what state is that? New Hampshire, they got the right to travel bill back on the floor. Dick Marble has been doing, or Mabel has been doing this for the last 3-4 years because he got a ticket, and and then the judge was telling him that he has no authority to speak. And Dick's like, I'm the legislator here. I write the laws. And the judge says to him, this is on YouTube video, doesn't matter what you think you are, I'm the judge. I am the law. And that set him off. So, I mean, you've got to realize that these men and women in these positions, they don't care about you. They don't want to know you. All they want is their paycheck, and they want to be able to rape, rob, and pillage so they can make a living by passing it on to somebody else. So that's the whole point. We've got to get to the point where we stop doing this stuff. So, but it's slowly coming together. It's slowly working. We see administrative changes. We do got to say what Trump has been doing a lot of stuff, even though that I don't participate in that structure, because that is de facto, that is a corporation government, and that is legal, not lawful, and anything legal is from a foreign country. It's not American, because the Constitution is the law, the lawfulness. So it is, when I do talk to people, people get upset at me because I always ask them to decipher. Are they talking statute, code, or administrative rule? And I've had people say, well, that doesn't matter. Yes, it does matter. You have to know what you're talking about. It's like when you go to court, you have to know your standing. Are you a legal citizen? Are you a lawful bloodline native? Or do you have dual citizenship that doesn't guarantee you any rights? So it's like, so it is one of those things that, once we start looking at these things and participating and being respectful, we start seeing a lot of things start changing. In a lot of these groups on Facebook, I've been watching a lot of these groups, and it's interesting how a lot of these groups are out there whining and crying, for children's rights, but all they're doing is making a living for themselves or their friends who are attorneys. So when you got somebody that, it's like, I know a lot of people that, right now who have a couple people that have hired attorneys because they never wanted to learn how to fight. Battle. Remember, this is a paper game, folks. It's like playing a game of chess. You got to realize that this is a paper game. And these men and women know it. They spend their life doing it. That's how they make their income, make their living off of you. Go ahead.
I think it's more of a game of Monopoly.
Mm-hmm.
And the government is winning most of the rolls of the dice. After all, they claim they're making $1 trillion a day. The courts are.
Yep.
So there's a lot of money going to attorneys, and a lot of money going to the courts for fines, fees, and other charges.
Right. No, I agree with you there. And the other point is, how come they're allowed to rape, rob, and pillage us? I mean,
Because it's back to we the people.
mm-hmm.
We the people aren't standing up. The Americans need to wake up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, once people start waking up, we can start getting more and more changes. But, it's like, it's interesting. I've been watching people arguing on, Facebook and a couple talk shows about taxes. Well, quit whining about taxes. What are you whining for? Oh, I have to pay them. It's like, okay, prove the law says you have to pay them. Oh, well, they just have to pay them. And that's why I get to, well, how do you expect roads to be done? And I always love when people throw this stuff in. How do you expect this or that to be paid for? And it's like, just because you're not intelligent enough, done the research, and know that every time you buy anything in automotive, you pay for it. If you buy anything in fishing tackle, you paying for it. Go ahead.
Don't forget the fuel tax.
Oh yeah, no, I was going to get into that. That the fuel tax is there too. And then your fishing pole has a tax. Your bait has, everything you do has a tax. Everything. So when people say, the only thing that the state and federal income tax and property taxes are voluntary, but trying to get people to stand up to it. And then once you see people start standing up to this, then you're going to start seeing, the borders. Oh, we won't be arguing about the borders because nobody wants to come in this country because they can't get a free living. That's right. We cut off welfare and immigration funding. Oh, what a concept. So, I mean, it's interesting because some of these deals are whining, and I'm enjoying it because most cities and states now are saying they're not arresting people for hemp anymore. Well, they're not supposed to because by federal law, it's lawful. That's the one thing that this stuff is already lawful and legal on your personal responsibility, but you can't go blame somebody else because you're not responsible. So, anyhow, anybody else got anything they would like to add in to this evening? So, anyhow, we got to pay attention to what's coming up. We got more and more projects. We'll get a copy of that stamp put out up on the website so people see what we're doing with that. And then we're looking at that they might want to change daylight savings times, and hopefully they do that because, I don't know why we're going back and forth on daylight savings time. What's the purpose of it? But anyhow, that's up for all of us to look at and think about, and but that's comes in time about what we're going to do. So with that one, seeing that nobody's got anything else they would like to add, I will say then why don't we just go ahead and call it an evening, and may the Great Spirit and Mother Earth look over you and the Creator bless you, and we'll go on until tomorrow night.
All participants are muted.
All right. Ed, and you are Disclaimers by Ed Johnson. It is Saturday, 2015. Catch us tomorrow night, maybe. But, or if you got business, we'll just inform you. Either way, see you tomorrow, and